So it's time for exercises. I prepared two exercises. Exercise number 1, it's rather simple. We are going to reuse the Excel table we created at the end of learning sequence, the previous learning sequence with people data, where we have 10 persons, 5 males and 5 females. So the idea is following. You need to load this data from Excel table and then make a scatter plot for height versus weight, and with certain requirements. First of all, males and females should be shown separately using different colors and markers. It's up to you which colors to use. Then plot should have a legend. Then this should be X ticks and this should be Y ticks. Only these numbers, not the other numbers. And then it's up to you. Do you want to add a box and titles and the grid? It's just up to you. But also every point should have a name of the person on top of it. For example, if you have a certain point, so this is the plot, and then you have some points, right? And for example, if this is Bob, it should be Bob on top of it. So you need to look at help for function text if you want to solve the last task. Otherwise, you know what to do. Okay. So now pause this video and try to solve this exercise yourself, and then after that, come back and see my solution. So now it's time to show you my solution. First of all, I will create separate script for each exercise. I will call the first script as exercise 3.1. So it's learning sequence number 3 and exercise 1. And then I will do the same for the second one, 3.2. Okay. So the first task is to load data from Excel table. I remind you that we created Excel file last time when we actually did exercises for the second learning sequence, and also we'll learn how to actually load this data, right? So I'll simply use this knowledge. First of all, I need to load the library that allows me to read Excel files. It's called Read Excel. I run it to load it, and then I simply say d equal to read Excel, and then the file name. Since I have only one sheet in this book, Excel book, and I have a pretty simple table, so I can just read it as is. And then you remember that Read Excel returns by default, at least when I record this video, it returns your data as a table, special format for data in Excel, and we need it as a data frame, so I have to convert it to data frame as data frame D. Okay, so these 3 lines allows me to get my data from Excel file as data frame. Then I can check what is inside. You can see that I have a dedicated column with names. This time I will not set row names, I don't simply need it. Then I have columns height and weight, I have column gender, I have everything I need. Okay. So now I need to make a plot, and first of all, I know that I need to make a plot for height versus weight, and I also need to do it separately for males and females. So it means that I have to prepare something first. Well, let me do the preparation. So first of all, I will make a variable g, which is simply a logical variable where I compare gender with, let's say, let me change it. Instead of G, I will call it M. And then I compare gender with M. And then F, I will do it like this, not M. Okay. So what it means, you can see that I got 2 variables. One is F with false, true, and one is M with true, false, and so on. And the idea is simple. Then F is equal to true every time I have a female person in my table. And then M is the opposite. You remember this exclamation point, exclamation mark. It's an inversion, so it means all trues become false and all false become true. So that's a pretty handy here. So now I have indices, at least, not indices, but logical values for my males and females records, right? So that's one thing. And then I can start making plots, and I will use this Lego approach. So first of all, I make a plot new. So I will create a frame for the plot, the empty frame. Then I create a plot window. And then you remember for plot window, you have to specify the limits, the X limits and Y limits. And so far, I will do it like this. I will simply specify it as a range. I know that the X will be for height and the Y axis will be for weight. So I will use range for height and range for weight. I will explain this in a minute. Range and then d weight. Okay. What is range? Range, it's a function that returns 2 values. It's the smallest and the largest value in the vector. And that is quite natural to use for at least initial estimation of the limits, right? So for example, if I run range d$height, I will get the smallest and the largest height I got. So this is the smallest and this is the largest height values. and then the same for weight. So I simply take this as a initial estimate for my limits, right? Now I need to make the axis. Where I start with x-axis, it's 1, and then you remember that there is a specific requirement in the assignment that x-sticks should be 150, 170, 190. So instead of doing everything manually, instead of doing everything automatically, I need to specify where the ticks are, and it's relatively easy. I simply use name it argument at, and then provide the numbers here. Then I can just run these 3 lines and to make sure that I have it correctly. And then you can see that's I have a little problem here because my limits do not actually include 150 and 190. You can see that I don't see them here, so I need to change the limits later. Okay, then axis 2, again add, and then I need to specify this 50, 70, 80, and 90. And then if I run it, so you can see again 70, 80, and 90 are okay, but 50 is out. Why 50 is out? Maybe 50 is not good, maybe I should use 60, but let me stick to the assignment. Okay, why 50 is out? Because if I calculate range for weight, you can see that the smallest value is 64. So that's the smallest value, 64. 50 is somewhere here, so that's why I don't see the 50 here. Okay, what I can do, I can replace these ranges with this number. So now I know the numbers here. So for example, I can make a range for height between 150 and 190, right? So let me just do it, 150 and 190. And then if I run it, you can see that both values are inside now. Yeah, I can do the same for the range for the y limits. I simply say the range is between 50, and you can see that the largest weight I have 98, so maybe I need to have 100 as a upper limit. Then you can see now I have also 50, 70, 80, and 90. Okay, that looks varied. I think I made a mistake in the assignment, but let's stick to that anyway. Okay, so now I can add a grid and box. It's not mandatory, but I like to have grid and box in my scatter plots. So, and then I can also add a title, and then main title will be people. Then I have X label will be, let's say, height, comma cm, centimeters, and then Y label will be weight, comma kilograms, right? So now you can see that I have a pretty decent layout here, not layout, but the plotting area with all needed titles. Now I can actually make the data points, right? So I need two series of points, one for males and one for females. And let me use some standard things like, for example, blue for males and red for females. I don't think it's standard, but I mean, in many cases you use blue and red for when it comes to males and females, right? So I will simply say points. Now I need to make a plot for height and weight, right? But there are several ways to do that. I will use a pretty straightforward way. I take all height values first, and then I subset them using this M. So let me start with males, right? And then I do the same for weight. I take all the points first, and then I subset them using this M. It's not the only way to make this. You can also use some other things like relations and so on, but this is the most straightforward way in this case. Then I say color equal to, let's say, blue. Then I will use a point character. Let me use 21. I'll play a little bit with that later. Okay. And then let me do the same for females. I simply change the logical variable, and then I will make the points red, and then let me use a point character 22. Okay. Now if I run it, you can see that I have males as circles, as blue circles, and then I have females as red squares. Let me play a little bit with that. So let me first of all change maybe the size. So let's use 1.5, so make it a little bit bigger. The points a little bit bigger. 1.5, and then also I will add a background. Let me just play a little bit with that again. Cyan here and magenta here. You remember that all points between 21 and 25 have two colors: color of a border of age, and then also color of what is inside the face. So that's what background is for, magenta. And then you can see the result like this. You can see that you have a border and also you have an edge. I can just zoom in. You can see that these are indeed different colors, right? You can play a little bit with this color. Maybe pink will be a little bit better visible. Yeah, I think it's better now. Okay, so now I have the points. I have 2 lines, but what I miss here, I miss names right on top of that. Luckily, there is a function text. So if you go to help and look at function text, you can find out that actually text allows you to draw strings, meaning text values, at certain positions, right? Apparently, I need to use the position of my points, and then labels will be my names of the people, right? Then you can see there are some arguments here as well. One of the most important arguments, it's a position. It's how text appears in relation to the point. You can see it can be 1, 2, 3, and 4, which indicate position below point, to the left of, above, and on to the right of. Okay, so you can play, we will play with that. In this case, because I just simply need to show names using the same color, I will not make splits to height of males, height of females, and so I will simply take all of them together. So this is coordinates of all points. Wait. And then I simply say labels equal to the $names, right? So again, let me run this and then show what happened. You can see that now names are exactly on the point. So let me make them on top. So it's a position equal to, I think, 3. Let me see. Yes, so now they are on top. And then perhaps I also need to make them a little bit smaller, 0.85. You can see I use the same parameter as I used for making larger points. So this is making smaller text. 0.85, it means 85% of the original values. Then I will also make them maybe, I don't know, gray to change the contrast. Then you can see that maybe dark gray is better. So you can see now we have also names on top of the points, and the names actually, they are sort of not as contrast as the points. So it's like a secondary information here. Yeah, looks pretty good. Now what we can do is, what we need to do is to add a legend, right? So legend. And then position of the legend. Again, I can just write something like top right, for example. So I have legend here, or maybe even bottom right, because I have a lot of space here. So maybe bottom right will be better. So I will write bottom right. You remember in my video, I specified coordinates of the legend, right? In this case, I specify a position of the legend, which is similar. Yeah, we will play with coordinates in a minute. Then I need to specify the legend itself, and then it's simply males and then females. I will just use the letters for that. Then I need to specify all the parameters, right? So first of all, it's points. I have 21 for male and 22 for female. Then I need to say the colors. It's blue and red. And in this case, it's a good idea also to specify the background colors. So the legend looks very much the same as the points themselves. So I have cyan and pink. I think that's it actually. So let me run it. So that's, oops, I think, I got it. The background by default, it's the background of the legend. So if you want to make a point background, you need to write PTBG. So it's a point background. Okay, it's a bit annoying. And you can see that I got it bottom right. Let me make it bottom left, perhaps. Bottom left. So you can see I got it here. Yeah. If you want to, you can specify, for example, if I want to have it here, it's probably 150 and 60, right? So I can just, instead of bottom left, I can write coordinates 150 and then 60, right? So in this case, I specify 2 values, not 1, but R will understand that what I need. And then you can see it's exactly in this corner, right? So up to you. Use these names, name it positions, or use coordinates. It's up to you. And then you can actually change, for example, instead of black border, you can change the border. You can change a lot of things if you want. You just need to look at the help for this legend function. Okay. So that's it. That's the solution for exercise number 1. I hope you got more or less the same result. And now let's go to exercise number 2.